30 seconds.
I'm not sure why it says Aaron Kaiser.
Are
Is
you
Aaron
able to
on?
change it? Well, and where did she go?
Did she drop off?
That is weird. Okay.
I
Uh,
might need to leave. I wonder if I need to leave for her
oh,
to
because
be
it
on.
will only let one person use that link, maybe. Okay, well, I'm gonna get us started and hopefully Xavier can help you. Oh, there we go. She's back.
No, I didn't touch
That
anything. I
was
just
so
Zoom kicked
funny.
me off.
That was a lively start to hopefully a lively conversation.
Yeah.
All right. Well, welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Sade. I am the director of Just Communities, and you have joined our monthly webinar series. It's a beautiful day here in Atlanta. I hope it's beautiful wherever you are. Um, Today's guest gives me a lot of hope for this moment of absurdity and fear that we're all living in, but particularly for our economy, um, which also has a lot of, unknowns, and is changing very rapidly. So I'm going to get us started with a quick presentation on who we are, and then we will jump right into the conversation. Again, welcome. My name is Sade. I am with Just Communities. Xavier, if you can put up our slides. There we are. Okay. Um, this is our webinar series. Next slide. Okay, so we like to say that Just Communities is a bold reimagining of how communities grow. I always like to start these conversations by reaffirming our values. So these are the things we value: radical truth and understanding of history, healing and liberation, honoring the wisdom and power of communities, racial equity as the superior growth model, a just climate transition, and policies that reform, repair, and reconcile past harms. Next slide. So all of our work is premised on this model that we call the Just Communities Protocol. It is really just a planning tool for communities, for development projects that want to be very intentional. Because it's a planning tool, what we're really seeking to do with the Just Communities Protocol is disrupt and transform the development process, not necessarily the outcomes, because we believe, the process, that if you transform the process, the outcomes will render themselves. And the two pillars of our model that everything is sort of premised on are racial equity and climate resilience. We believe that those two things have to be addressed holistically. And we break those two pillars down into five areas: environment, opportunity, which is economic opportunity, health and well being, belonging. Oh, my eyesight is terrible now, and mobility. And then we ask communities to make 22 commitments. All of those commitments fall into one of those five priority areas. And then we break those commitments further down into 17 actions. And we organize those actions into these four phases that you see on the outside: beginning with the groundwork phase where you're really just building momentum for the work that you're about to do. Then your governance, where you're setting up a very deep ongoing engagement and government structure for your project. The roadmap, where you're planning all of the strategies that you're going to use, and then, of course, the implementation. So that's the way that I describe that is actually much more complicated than the tool itself. It's a very practical, it's intended to be a very practical way for communities to be much more intentional about rendering more racially equitable outcomes, which could be, anything from making sure that folks from the local community are employed through the projects that you're developing, to incorporating the cleaning of hazardous waste sites, which we know the majority of them in the US are in Black and Brown communities. Okay, so that is our model. Next slide. I think this is our last slide. I just want to tell you all about the two programs that we currently have. The first is our accredited practitioners course, which is basically a course that's teaching our model, but it's very hands-on. So the idea is that you practice with us using the protocol so that you can really apply it in your work. It's designed for anybody that's involved or even just interested in the development process. So you could be a builder, architect, urban planner, community organizer, affordable housing person, etc. We give it live every quarter. The next one is coming up December 2nd and 3rd. Um, you can also, so the live course is 4 hours a day over 2 days, so it's 8 hours. If you don't have, you're not able to commit to that time, you can do the asynchronous version, which is on our platform, take it at your own pace. And then you would take the exam to get accredited, and then you have a fancy accreditation that you can renew every couple of years. All you have to do is attend cool events like this to get your credits for reaccreditation. So that's that. I think that Elaine is dropping a link to sign up for the December course. So if you are interested, please check it out. And then our other program right now is this webinar series that you all are participating in. A quick plug for our speaker next month. For those of you that don't know, Albina Vision Trust, it is one of the most inspiring community development initiatives in the country right now, coming out of Portland, I believe. And the speaker is Alam Osman. That'll be next month. We always do it, I believe, on the third Wednesday at 1 p.m. So that's the 19th. You can sign up for all of this great stuff at our website, justcommunities.info. Okay, that is the end of my infomercial, and now we can get to the good stuff, where I have the honor of presenting our speaker for today. And before I jump into our introduction of Erin, I just want to say, I, our whole purpose at Just Communities is to build a critical mass of folks that are demonstrating that we can develop our communities, our cities, our economies in a different way. So I'm really excited to learn from Erin today because Industrial Commons is doing it. So let me just very quickly read Erin's very impressive bio, and then we'll jump into the presentation. So Erin Kaiser is the Senior Director of Infrastructure at the Industrial Commons. Erin oversees the development of a 28-acre brownfield site that is to become the innovation campus, or maybe I should say becoming, because I think it's under development,
Happening. Yeah.
along with 10 acres of cooperative housing. Erin graduated from Cornell University. Oh, I did too. We'll have to talk about that later.
Hey.
Um, and previously taught in Philadelphia Public Schools as a part of Teach for America, and later volunteered with AmeriCorps. She has a master's degree in urban planning and environmental policy from Tufts University. Following graduate school, she worked at at the local, state, and federal government in environmental policy and compliance. She later turned her attention towards sustainable building, working in Boston helping homeowners improve the energy efficiency, affordability, and durability of their homes. She was also the chief operations officer of a direct to consumer textile company called Project Repat, which manufactures its products at Opportunity Threads. And Opportunity Threads is one of, I'm sure, the many businesses at the Industrial Commons. So I assume that's how you got introduced to Industrial Commons where you are today. So again, thank you for joining us, Erin, and I am going to hand it off to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that kind and generous introduction. I'm really honored to be presenting to the folks at Just Communities. We have a lot of admiration for the work they do and the organizing and the thoughtful work they're putting out to the world. So I'm going to pull up my slides here and we're going to jump into it. Okay. Second. All right, great. Let me know if you're not seeing that, but I'm going to proceed. So yeah, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the background of the Industrial Commons and our organization, and then tie that right into why we have decided to take on this ambitious project, how we've navigated that, and the things we've done to bring it into an asset for our organization and our community. So just to give you acquainted a little bit about where the Industrial Commons is, we are located in Burke County, which is Morganton, North Carolina. So we're about an hour north of Charlotte, east of Asheville, the western part of the state, very much part of that kind of western North Carolina area. And our mission here at the Industrial Commons is to rebuild a diverse working class based on locally rooted wealth. And so we think the way to do that is through the founding and scaling of employee-owned social enterprises and industrial cooperatives, with really the goal of how are we going to support these frontline workers to build a new Southern working class that erases the inequalities of generational poverty and builds an economy and a future for all. And this has really come out of sort of the historic manufacturing sector that always existed in this part of the state, especially around textiles and furniture. So especially post-NAFTA in our community, we saw a huge downturn in the economy. A lot of people lost their jobs as some of these large multinational corporations decided to find cheap labor elsewhere, a story that's really not unique to a lot of folks in the southeastern part of our country. And we knew that this was not like an economic development strategy we wanted to keep repeating. So we think the best way to protect folks in our community is to create businesses that are locally rooted there who are not interested in leaving. This is where they live. This is where they're thriving. And how do we do that to ensure that the wealth that's created is also equally distributed to the workers who are helping make that business successful? So that's really kind of the root of the philosophy in which we approach our work. And we're really proud of what we've been able to do. So the entity itself, we're only 10 years old, and we really have done a lot of growth in the last 4 or 5 years, especially. But we have some pretty good metrics that we're proud of. We now own almost 70 acres of land, or just over 70 acres of land,
Wow.
and are controlling a lot of assets, both for our organization and also through our Good Books, which is our bookkeeping company and cooperative that we started. So really trying to invest ourselves and ensure the folks and the workers in our community are supported, as well as those businesses are really have the opportunity to thrive. And I think something that's really unique about what we do is that we also do a lot of work with our local school system, and we have kind of that in through the arts. So we have a youth training program that kind of helps kids understand a lot of these more complex issues around how do you be a good citizen, how do you think about the environment, how do you create a good place to work through arts. And then we also do some internship programs where we connect kids in our community with mentors, really address Opportunity Youth, it's called, in the state, where folks between 16 and 24 who maybe are either out of school, underemployed, or not pursuing educational programming, they can get connected with folks and kind of get themselves on a career path towards success. So, and with all this, we're trying to align ourselves with some of the UN Sustainability Development Goals so we can kind of keep good measurement of these things and really understand what our overall impact is. So I'm going to this is a little video. There's no sound, but just gives you a glimpse of one of our factories. So we, like I said, the textile industry has always been kind of at the heart of the economy here where we live. So there's a lot of infrastructure, both of machines and goods, but also folks and people with a skill set to operate these businesses. So after a lot of these large companies left, there was sort of all this latent capacity, right? So we thought, okay, how do we create businesses, again, that are going to be utilizing the skills and the materials that we have, but are not going to be taken elsewhere just to cheap chaser, like cheap, less expensive labor. So this actually predates the Industrial Commons. This was really the inspiration, the success of this company, Opportunity Threads, started in 2008. Now employs about 50 different folks. And we have now a pathway so that if you are, after you've gone through your first 2 years of employment, if you're employing in good standing, you have an opportunity to become an owner. So there's sort of this track that you can develop towards member ownership. So you're getting your normal salary. You know, it's still, there's a hierarchy, right? It's still a business, there's managers, there's people in charge, but as you move up and the longer you're there and the more skilled you become, you also have an opportunity to profit share. So that kind of what sets some of these businesses apart. And we think is really important for helping people establish more meaningful wealth creation for them based on their own labor and what they put into the business. And that's really become the model for all the work that we do. And so as this business Opportunity Threads was very successful, we also understood that it was creating a challenge, which was textile waste. And so we saw this as, okay, every good entrepreneur, they're always trying to solve a problem. So Molly Hemstreet, who's one of our co-directors and one of our founders, she saw like, oh gosh, we're generating so much waste. Some of this is really good fibers still. There has to be a way for us to better utilize this resource that it still exists. So material return started as really a tech aggregation facility. So we do have a pretty strong network of folks still that work in this sector. So there's a lot of there's like 500 factories doing some type of textile related work within 75 miles of us. So with enough capacity there and enough work, we can aggregate all that waste and then we can start working at scale. So we're now in about the 6th year of this business. And I think one product that really illustrates how this works has been our partnership with Smart Wool. So wool, you know, if you guys heard of Smart Wool socks, they're not the cheapest socks, but they're not cheap because wool is a very high quality fiber. It has a lot of unique characteristics that make it very durable. If you sweat in it, it doesn't smell, and it's very comfortable and feels soft and warm. So it's a much higher quality fiber than, let's say, a cotton or a polyester, certainly. So with Smart Wool's partnership, we've now developed a way to take back both their post-production. So everything that there's some waste that's generated through making new socks and new clothing items, and then also taking all their post-consumer waste. So folks, when a garment or a sock comes to the end of its useful life, which, you know, at some point things do wear out, there's still a lot of good fiber left in that garment or sock. They can actually return it to material return. We break it down, we reconstitute it into yarn, and then we can make new products. So we have had a lot of success with them. And I think it's a really good, clear example of this consumer-based product where you can see this idea of circularity and how do we implement that at scale with a national brand. And it's been really cool to see that develop over the years. So I'm going to play a quick
Just
little
to
video.
clarify,
Oh, sorry.
Wool sock.
no,
Say it
no,
again.
just to clarify really quickly, how do
Yeah.
people return it?
Yeah, that's a good question. So for a long time, there was a few different ways. So when you could order something on Smartwool's website, you could also throw a return bag into your cart. So it was free of charge. You'd get your order of whatever product you'd order, and then also this return back. So every day FedEx is dropping a couple hundred bags for us. And then seasonally, sometimes they've been doing some take back boxes at like sporting goods stores where you might see like a receptacle set up. Yeah, great question. The nice thing about partnering with some of these national brands is they also have really good marketing departments. So I'm going to share a great little video that they put together that I think really highlights this and makes it very palatable for the consumer.
If there's one thing Smartwool's known for, it's this. These puppies, or kids, are constructed with the world's finest merino wool. This ain't fast fashion. It's a built-to-last passion, grown by the best in the business down in New Zealand and knit by the best in the business right here in the US of A. And from sheep to spool to sock to sweet, life is pretty good for these socks. And while we make these socks to last, we don't make them to last forever. So when it's time to say goodbye, it broke our hearts to think that this magical fiber might end up adding to the 14 million tons of textile waste ending up in landfills every year. So what if we took them back? What if we could go from sock back to spool to back to sock, like a circle? circularity. So we made some new friends, Bob and Molly, over at Material Return. And with Bob and Molly and their friends, who are our friends, we set out to go from sock to sock. But first, we needed socks. So we reached out to more friends, and boy, did they deliver. Through our second cup project, our community in Smart Logan sent back over 650,000 socks. That's
Wow.
50,000 pounds. And sprinkled in were thank you notes that led us to shed about 50,000 tears. Joy. Then Bob and his friends set out to develop a revolutionary way to go from sock to spool, and then sent that spool back to our old friend John, our sock master of 20 years, to make it socks again. After years of development, experiment, and commitment, we're thrilled to deliver Smartwell's first circular design product, the Second Cut Project Hike Sock. From all of our friends to you. This isn't a used sock made new. It's a new sock made to be used again.
So they have a great marketing team who's really good at delivering that message.
Wow,
Um,
very cool.
Yeah, so it's a great product. I think one thing to highlight about that is part of the reason this has been successful and this has worked is because Smartwell has maintained some presence of their production in the United States. So some of the economics of circularity in different product lines can be really hard. But if you are doing something that's still in the United States, it is still possible. Sorry. So this is kind of like a little bit of the overview of all the steps involved. And this took a long time to develop, but having that, a corporate partner who had kind of the foresight that this was going to be important has been really critical for us and helped us ensure, now we have some proof of concepts, so we're starting to work with more brands. So it's been really exciting to see this sort of small sector, small cut of the sector, but an important one, really embracing this type of circularity, environmental consciousness, and that we're able to do that in our community. It's been really exciting. So I'm going to parlay all that to say that we have some businesses that are growing, that are really robust. And people might say, why worry about getting into real estate development and taking on a brownfield? So for us, we felt it was important because we saw ourselves kind of in a unique position in our community where we were becoming kind of this interesting nexus between our community. We had really entrusted ourselves and built up a strong relationships with the frontline workers in our community, as well as the companies and entrepreneurs. And then we're getting a lot of interest from students. And we saw this opportunity to also kind of help the next generation of kids coming up get excited about this work that for a long time wasn't always thought of as positive or interesting or exciting. And we also wanted to really build and showcase kind of our green innovation, our triple bottom line values. So people, planet, profit. If anyone has ever driven through rural Southeast United States, there are manufacturing buildings that exist, but a lot of them are pretty nondescript, frankly. They're not particularly inviting. So we wanted to kind of change that perception and also get people curious about what was possible with domestic manufacturing. And then as we have been growing and as we've had some success, we also have a lot of people that are curious about what we do and want to learn more. And it's hard to fully convey some of that even through a discussion or a phone call. But we always love hosting people actually in our community and having them get a chance to see it firsthand. So we wanted to create a space where we could be good hosts and be good teachers into the future. So with that, we decided to buy a brownfield. So just to give you a sense of scale, this is an aerial view of downtown Morganton. We're about 19,000 people in our community. So small city, but a pretty robust community. And then we have 30 acres right in the heart of it, which used to be an old manufacturing plant. And then another 10 acres, which we're starting to get into a housing development too. So both of those in close proximity to each other and right in the heart of our downtown. And I think what was especially compelling to us about this property, and one of the reasons we chose to purchase it, is that it had such a long history and was like a really iconic parcel, frankly, in our town. So this was part of the Drexel Heritage Furniture Company. So for over 100 years, this was some of the most well-established, most respected, kind of like the highest end furniture produced in the United States. We have our local museum talks about some of these pieces being like in the White House. And at its peak, 20% of the folks who lived in our county worked for this company. Not everyone just at this facility, but it was really the major employer. So unfortunately, post NAFTA, they started to kind of wind down their operations. So by 2004, the last of the Drexel factories shuttered. And then in 2009, this facility actually burned down. So in the
Wow.
ensuing 15 years, this is what it's looked like. It's kind of been this scar on our community, which has been really hard. A lot of people put a lot of good years in this place, had a lot of pride in the work that they did here, but it's been kind of left fallow. And I think it's been hard to see that in the heart of our community. So we knew that this was an opportunity to find a place for ourselves to grow, but also to kind of recommit ourselves to our community and what we knew could be possible in this site. So the first thing we had to do was remediate some of the things that had been left behind. We were really lucky in some ways. It was classified as a brownfield, but had just enough that we could kind of access some of that funding and get some of that support to get this cleaned up, but it was contained and nominal enough that we could actually address those issues and get rid of all these kind of contaminants. So there was some coal when it had been a coal-fired power plant, and then there were actually a tank that had fuel in it, and sort of by a small miracle, it had not leaked into the soil, it was still contained in that tank. So we got all of that fuel oil pulled out, also alleviating that risk for future contamination, which was really exciting. And then all of the various debris that had been left after this fire, we were able to get those all out of the site as well.
Erin,
And
can I ask you
yeah,
really quickly,
absolutely.
sorry, did the
Yeah.
industrial commons exist before this, or was it created explicitly for this project?
No, we existed before this. And so this was
Okay.
always kind of like a vision of our,
Oh, okay,
yeah.
right. So this is a relatively new addition to,
Yeah, yeah.
okay,
Well,
got
we
it.
had kind of
Sorry.
this, no, it's a great question. Our founders had this like really big vision about like having a campus in the future. And there have been a few other parcels we had pursued. It had not worked out. And then as there was actually some changes that happened with the EPA where nonprofits could access brownfield cleanup funding for the first time in the early like 2020-ish, I think. So that kind of was like, we were like, oh, maybe if we, and none of this is guaranteed, it was all a bit of a risk, but we knew that if we acquired the parcel, our county had already done the assessments. We knew exactly what the environmental risks were here. We felt like they were things we could address with the right funding sources. So we were very fortunate. Our founders pitched this to a couple of folks in the community and then got the support to buy this parcel. So it was a big vision, but something I think we knew could help us actualize some of our bigger dreams as we saw some of our other businesses growing. Good question, though. So as we were getting all this cleaned up, we also knew that it was really important to talk to the community and get some clear input from them about, hey, this has been abandoned for so long. We have an idea about how it could support our businesses and our organization, but like, what do you as community members want to see there? So our very first community charrette we had in 2021, it was really a big wide gate of anything and everything that could be possible. It was really cool because we, certainly reached out to the usual community leaders and also our workforce, but we also engaged some of our youth and sort of talked to kids and had them do this really cool model of what they would love to see on a big parcel like this. So talking to them about what they thought would be important. So we, with that, also every Earth Day, we have an event where we really try to get the public out there. As soon as we got the sort of contaminants removed, we were able to bring people onto the site, which has been really exciting for them to see and to visualize and to imagine what could go out there. So that's really helped to inform our vision, which I'm going to share in a moment, what's going to happen out at this site. So these are just a few clips, but we were always having different community events where we were trying to really get input from folks that we knew would benefit from this development. Yeah, and so I also wanted to share a little bit about our design team. I think none of this would be possible without we had a hope and a dream. But we've also been able to list an incredible group of professionals that could really help us turn this idea and this vision into a reality. So we're so grateful to them. And we've been really blessed because we knew how important this was going to be for Morganton and for Burke County, but we weren't necessarily sure that other people would care that much. And I think we are just so grateful for these guys because they've been with us, especially Bethune and Boos and Nelson Birdwald's landscape architects. They've all been with us really shortly after we acquired the property and helped us think through how do we turn this idea and this dream into reality, and really maybe more than we could have ever done on our own. So a really incredible group I like to brag on. And the vision they put together has been really phenomenal. So we have 30 acres. Our goal here really is to develop about half the parcel now and then kind of save the second half of the parcel for future development. So, you know,
Mm.
in the end, the mission of the Industrial Commons is to help start and seed and grow businesses. So our hope is
Mhm.
with this first building, the accelerator building, it's going to have flexible manufacturing space. And the idea here really is that folks, as they're coming out of the incubation and startup phase, will then be able to build to suit across the rest of the parcel. So we kind of have this built-in expansion ready to go. And then the second building, which we're just starting to get ready, just starting to fundraise for now, is going to be more of our community-based program. So having some dedicated art spaces, a little more office spaces for all of our trainings we do. And also our hope is to have a dining facility there because we know to be a good host in the South, you got to feed people. So we want to make sure we can do all that. And I think the other thing that we're really excited about is for a long time, we were considering the Living Building Challenge. We have ultimately decided not to
Mm.
pursue that certification for a myriad of reasons, which I'm happy to talk about, but it's really been our North Star. So really thinking about how do we not just minimize our impact on this land and through this building development, but how do we actually support the natural environmental world here? So
Mm.
that's really, I think, come to life through the landscape. So we've done a lot of things here, and I think on the next slide I'll show them, but where we're thinking about how we improve the natural quality of this site, which has again been abandoned for the last nearly 20 years. And the other cool thing I'll highlight is that we've also tried to preserve a little bit of the history of this site. So this brick wall is
Mm.
actually a remnant of the old,
Oh,
uh,
that's cool.
yeah, of the old parcel or the old building that was there. So some of those things we're deliberately not knocking down and just flattening out, but actually incorporating into our design because for us, that's really critical, right? Like where have we come from? What are we building off of? Our foundation is not just something we created, it's generations that came before us. So paying some homage
And
to
you
that.
said it was a coal plant and what else before?
So it was a furniture factory that was coal fired. It
Furniture,
was,
right.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. So it was, you know, it's been there for a very long time. So before fuel oil was as readily accessible. We are definitely in coal land out here in Western Carolina.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm into that. So some of the things that we're really proud of that we've been able to incorporate into this sign, the daylighting of a stream. So for the last 100 years, there's been this culvert that ran from the north side of the property all the way across this highway. And there was a stream that was just underground. And so we are actually, now that we have control of the land, are going to pull that stream back to the surface. So daylighting the stream, restoring some of that natural infrastructure, and then creating sort of a little bit of a park down here where folks can come out of there, take a break from whatever work they may be doing, get outside, take a walk, and also have that place
Mm.
where the community can engage more naturally, right, with us and with their environment. So that's something that we're intending to have open to the broader community. And then we're trying to be really thoughtful about some of the other things we're going to incorporate here. So we've talked about a natural dye garden. Part of the reason textiles existed in this part of the country from the beginning was the amount of water we had and sort of the natural things we could use to supplement that industry. So highlighting some of those
Mm.
natural and kind of the reason this exists here in this part of North Carolina.
Does dye garden mean you are deriving the dye from plants in that
Yeah,
garden?
exactly. Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Really quickly, going
Mhm.
back to when you're talking about aspiring to make it a living building, there's a
Mhm.
question from Ryan in the audience saying, can you share more about the negotiations to move away from living buildings throughout the campus?
Yeah, it's a good question. So, yeah, it's hard work as a nonprofit to raise the funding period to like get this
Yeah.
built. And that's maybe
Yeah.
next slide I'm happy to talk a little bit about.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Okay.
but no, but the nuance, I guess, of this has been we had to like make some really tough decisions. So we just understood that as part of the certification process, you know, that's not necessarily the certification itself is not the thing that is prohibitive, but I think it also required, we knew we were going to have to hire some specialized folks to help us navigate that. Especially
Yeah.
with a new build, there's a lot of like very particular materials you can and cannot use, and with good reason. And they've done incredible work vetting those things, but it
Hmm.
requires a certain level of expertise that we weren't sure we could afford across the entire project. And then
Got it.
another sort of unique and tricky thing about our community is that our power source comes from nuclear energy, which has its own challenges. But it's almost carbon neutral. So like 96% of our energy is not producing carbon. So when you take the carbon out of your energy
Wow.
production, it eliminates some of the triggers and ways that you're able to kind of make that equation work.
Yeah.
And then another good thing maybe for us is that our energy costs are very low. And I'm sure someone will ask me what that number is, and I don't have it off the top of
That's
my head.
interesting because I always heard that nuclear was more expensive for consumers, so that's good to hear.
Yeah, so
Um,
some of that I've heard is just historically there was a lot more manufacturing here in the past than there is now. So it's sort of
mm,
this latent capacity that isn't as
got it.
utilized or maxed out.
Mm,
So that's kept our costs low and our carbon impact low. So that makes it hard to access some of these more renewable options, which we're gonna be hard for us to implement affordably.
There's one question earlier
Yeah,
that I missed
sure.
from the audience. Deanna's asking, how did Aaron's group fund the purchase of the site and are funding the planning and phase one development? Oh, are they funding the planning and phase one development? How did you
Yeah,
fund it?
yeah, great.
Oh,
Great
perfect
segue into my
timing.
next slide. Yeah, it's been a slow burn, but yeah, we're trying to be transparent too about how we've managed to do this. So the
Yeah.
acquisition, what came from a local donor, so they donated directly to purchase the property. I mean, we also live in a unique area where, like, at that point in time, this was I think 2020 when we started these negotiations to purchase it and complete it in 2021. We bought us 30 acres for $700,000. So that's not possible in a lot of communities. So I recognize that's a very inexpensive price. Um, and
Yeah.
then we were also in a pretty unique moment in the Biden administration where there were some pretty big grant opportunities, sort of unmatched in recent history. And we had some success in landing a couple of those, which have gone a really long way in helping us secure the necessary construction and development funding for this project. So the biggest one I'll highlight is through the Appalachian Regional Commission. We got an Arise grant from them. So that has been really our anchor funding for the project. So that was $10 million. So that's all going to our construction. We did have to raise a match of that. So that's where the Candida Fund came in, was a private foundation, the
Mhm.
Cannon Foundation. And then we, had initially we had a lot of private money and then this federal money. And then we frankly lobbied our local legislature pretty hard and said, hey
Mm.
guys, this really important economic development opportunity is happening. We're going to create a lot of
Wow.
jobs. We're going to restore some abandoned property in our community. You guys got to come to the table. Like, it's going to be embarrassing for you if you're not a
Wow.
part of this. Um, so we got into our state budget a few years back, and that was huge. So that helped us have enough of the development funding. And that's really what we've used that money for, is all of our sort of pre-development, architecture, engineering. Because the site's been fallow for so long, it needed a lot of extra interrogation. We had to understand what we were working with, what needed to be replaced, what could be reused. So that's not been a cheap undertaking for sure. So
Mhm.
all of those funds have been really critical to
I'm
make it happen.
curious to know because I know North Carolina, I think, is a purple state like Georgia, which is where I am. Did you have bipartisan support?
Yeah, and it was not always easy to navigate, but I think we really framed it as these are jobs, this is economic development, this is improving our community, and I think wherever you are on the spectrum, that's pretty hard to argue against. And I think
Mhm.
especially, in our community, there's a lot of emotion behind like the lost manufacturing jobs we've seen, and so I think folks are really excited about the opportunity of bringing some of those back. And restoring those in a way that feels fair and equitable, so, and rooted here. So I think that
Mhm.
was really, it was how we tried to approach that.
Got it.
Yeah. Great. So I'm going to share just a few more details about, again, the Living Building Challenge really informed how we've approached this building, and it's resulted in a few really cool things that I'm excited are going to be incorporated into the construction. It's a pretty hardworking manufacturing building. These are pretty big open spaces in both the left and right side here. And then kind of the middle center area is going to be a kitchen, a gathering area, common space. But we are going to use mass timber for the construction, which is pretty exciting. So it's going to be really warm, we feel like, on the inside. And we've also been really thoughtful about ensuring there's enough light and natural access to daylight. That's often missing in a lot of manufacturing buildings that you go into. They are
Yeah.
kind of put up quickly. You see a lot of these like metal corrugated buildings. They're very functional, but not always the most pleasant environments to work in. So we've really thought a lot about who's going to be in these facilities and who's going to have to spend their days working here. So
Mm.
we really had this
We
idea
have,
of like, go ahead.
I'm sorry, we have a quick question about the
Yeah.
construction.
Mhm.
Actually, it says, this is from Janelle. It says the 2.6 million content saved from the landfill, is
Mhm.
it then recycled to be used in construction of the redevelopment project?
Oh, the items. So we did a lot of work with our engineers. So there's a lot of cutting and filling of soil on the site itself. So we initially thought some of that stuff was just going to be trucked off. But we're actually
Mhm.
reincorporating it wherever we can. And then there was some contaminated stuff that did not stay. So that had to go into like specialty landfills. So there was some stuff that had traces amount of asbestos, especially from the building that burned down. So things we're able to salvage, we're going to try to, especially in the landscape. There's a lot of like concrete pads we've identified that we're going to cut out of places to use as benches or like pathways as much as we can. There wasn't a lot left standing on this site that was usable. So
Got it.
we are
Okay.
where we can. Yeah, good question. Yeah, just another quick peek of the interior. So
Nice.
yeah, we're really excited about how this is proceeding. We actually just grading has started at the site, so there's heavy equipment out there now. Folks are starting to move the dirt, and then we actually put out our bids for our GCs just yesterday. So we got a few firms for
Wow.
now. Yeah, actually starting to put pen to pencil and or paper to pencil to give us quotes now on getting this constructed. So that selection process is in process, and we'll have that all selected by the end of the year. And then I just wanted to highlight two other quick stories that have happened because of this project and this development. As a lot of folks know, about a year ago, Hurricane Helene came through our region. And we were quite fortunate. We had some certainly residual effects of that and without power for a few days, but most of the worst effects were just to the west of us. So we did a lot of work working with our neighbors, but one of the sort of obvious scars to our community was that about 40% of our canopy came down across Western North Carolina. So a lot of really old trees, a lot of hardwood trees, which is why the furniture industry existed here, actually just toppled over. A lot of them didn't break. The root systems were saturated. So these like really beautiful trees just like fell over. And that was pretty crushing to like all of us who knew the value of this wood. So we mobilized pretty quickly and worked with a local woodworker to go salvage some of these logs actually, got them all piled up, and now he has started processing some of them. So we're really excited to now use some of this wood and incorporate it
Wow.
into, oops, I lost my, use that in some of the furniture and finish of the campus. So it's going to look really, really good.
So cool.
And we're excited also to kind of highlight the story, I think, of resilience and kind of how the folks in our community really have bounced back and took this sort of tragic moment and turned it into an opportunity to support each other and to create something beautiful. And then the last thing I want to also just share, oh dear, the slides are. Oh, I don't need to watch a video. Okay. So that's him getting those all processed and stacked up.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
so cool.
So those are all curing now, so we can use them in different ways in the finish work at the campus. And then the other cool thing I just want to highlight is sort of the emotional impact, I think, of this project on our community. So as I mentioned, this factory that was here shut down in 2004. So that wasn't that long ago in the scheme of things. And a lot of folks who worked at this facility are still very much in our community. And we wanted to really capture those stories and make sure that those were not lost and those were told. So we worked with a local photographer and tracked down a few of our friends and family members in the community to kind of share some of their memories and their history working at this plant. And then we actually did a photo shoot with them out on the property. So we'd had this really compelling set of photography done.
Wow.
And I think it's been really cool to see because all of these folks work at the industrial commons and their parents or grandparents worked at this facility back in the day. So there's this real generational opportunity to create a new narrative, which we feel like is really critical and important part of how we reimagine our community and make it great for everyone that's here. So we're really
It's
proud of what's
beautiful.
happening.
There's
Yeah.
there's actually one question that's somewhat related. Janelle was asking if the arts program that you talked about earlier is also offered to adults.
Oh, that's cool. No, we don't have it. It's mostly focused on K through
Okay.
12. We're really plugged into the school system here. Well, I should say we have a few times, and I think they're going to run it again this year. Have done a artist in residency program. So if you
Okay.
are a
Oh, cool.
visual artist of some way or no visual artists who might be interested, we have been recruiting people in the past that did something that might be textile related to kind of identify different ways to use some of the items that we have in our waste stream to create art. So be on the lookout for that. But generally, we're working on K through 12. So
These
yeah.
photos are really powerful.
Yeah, I'm really proud of that collaboration we did, kind of highlighting the impact of this for our community. So
Mm.
yeah. And then we use this whole photo series then to kind of talk to the kids about what place and work look like, and then took them on their own photo shoot exploration. So that's, I think, the end. Yeah, so we're right now in the midst of it. We've gotten started our construction now, and anticipate it's going to be about 18 months. So circle back in 2027. We'll invite you guys over.
Yes, I would love to see it in person.
Yeah.
All right. So thank you so much for all of that. That was a dynamic presentation. We do
Yeah.
have several really great questions from the audience, and I had some as well, but I'm going to hold mine. Let's see. So we answered that. Okay, so Heather is asking, how has access for workers, the community been considered, and does the design include biking, walking trail, and transit connections?
Yeah, we have thought a lot about that. So we have intentionally put some we're basically there's a railroad track that separates us from a neighborhood from this
Okay.
facility. So we've worked really hard with the city to figure out how do we ensure that that railroad crossing is going to be safe for pedestrians, and then throughout the acres itself, there's going to be a whole set of walking trails so people can go out there on their breaks, and that will be open to the public as our plan once it's finished. And we also, we're navigating to how do we make more pedestrian accessible connections to our downtown, which is very close. As is common in a lot of southern rural towns, most people are driving whenever they need to get anywhere. So we have been really trying to be, figure out ways to encourage more biking and walking for folks when it's possible.
How big is the population?
19,000
Okay.
in
Okay.
Morganton. Mhm.
Town. Marissa is asking, how, if at all, do you work with the Morganton local government to advance workforce development initiatives?
Yeah, so we are very plugged in with the school system, especially on workforce development. And I think part of our strategy is helping kids navigate that early on.
Mm.
And making sure they feel connected and are aware of all the opportunities that are available in our community. I think for a long time there was a narrative in Burke County that if you wanted to be successful, you had to leave and you had to get out of here. And we really wanted to change that conversation, especially for young people. So that's where we have put a lot of our effort. The program we run is called Work in Burke. And so it helps connect kids coming out of
That's
high
clever.
school, kids that are in community college, get connected to those opportunities, and also connect them to a mentor outside of work so that they can have kind of the right support structure to be successful. So
Okay.
that's been going well. Yeah.
Uh-huh. I'm curious to know the racial makeup and has it evolved over the
Mhm.
years?
Yeah, that's a great question. We are predominantly white. It's about 80% white, but then we have about 7% African American, and then
Okay.
20% of folks who identify as Hispanic or Latino.
Yeah.
So outside of manufacturing, one of the other large employers in our community is processing facilities, so chicken
Yeah.
processing. So historically, that industry has recruited from the Latin American community. So we actually have a very large Guatemalan community. Folks though
Mm.
now have been here for a really long time. A lot of that recruitment started in the 80s. So at this point, many of their second and third generation of folks that are Guatemalan live here. So we have a really robust community. They are, you know, not without challenges of being the minority
Yeah.
group, but I think well integrated and well respected. There's a lot of like thoughtful people in our community have done a lot to kind of cross that over. So
Mm. Okay. Natalie is asking what percentage was reserved? This is going back to your budget as a
yeah.
contingency in your budget. And are the tariffs impacting your project?
Good question. So with all the federal funding, we actually have to comply with Build America, Buy America. So there's maybe not direct impacts on what we are acquiring that are being tariffed, but certainly the entire building sector is being affected because of the tariff challenges. So there
Right.
are certainly fluctuations happening. Um, our current construction budget, so that's the total amount of money we've raised. We have tried to design the building in such a way that the hard costs are, I think, at about like 18 million, and then we have quite a bit of contingency set aside to
Okay.
account for whatever the final bid comes in at.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Are you going to, this is from Rochelle. Are you going to, can you talk a little bit about the housing component?
Yeah, so that's just getting underway now, but similarly, we were able to acquire 10 acres nearby. It had also been part of the Drexel factory, but had been a little bit more cleanly
Okay.
cleared off. So yeah, we're looking really at utilizing a land trust model. I think there's a
Okay.
missing middle of homes
Yeah.
and that are not being built in our community. So I think we see these working class families and we are, creating these jobs for them, but they're not able to enter the market. So we're hoping to build homes that would really be for like 80 to 120% of AMI in our
Mhm.
community. So for us, that's hitting around $200,000 homes. So it's really like starter homes that just developers are not
Okay.
incentivized to buy right now
Yeah.
or to build. But we want to
Okay.
ensure that we protect the long-term affordability. So we anticipate using a land trust model, but we're working through the details of that right now.
Okay. Okay. I know that we're coming to an end. I am gonna narrow down. There's two questions I'm like dying to ask you
Yeah, let's
because
hear.
this is my intro to, the concept of circularity. So the first thing that I'm wondering is, did you all pick textiles because there are certain conditions, qualities that circularity is more like
Mm.
effective with, or how did you come to do textiles?
Yeah, that's a good question. We really thought about that because that was sort of what the latent skill set was for folks in our
Oh,
community.
I
And there was
see.
sort of this
Okay.
industrial infrastructure that as, firms left, but a lot of this like skill and knowledge was left behind. So we were
I
figuring out how do we
see.
kind of reanimate that in a way that we didn't have to retrain a million people, right? Like they already had these skills. How
Right,
do we put them
right.
to work? And I think textiles, there's some amount of that circularity that naturally lends itself, but that wasn't necessarily, I think circularity as a concept applies across any sector. You have to be thoughtful and it's not always easy, but
Okay,
I think for us, that was really just core of like, how do we have triple bottom line businesses? So that's the way we're
okay.
trying to
But you
incorporate it.
feel like it's applicable across many industries and it's doable.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, yeah, you have to be thoughtful and you can't just produce a
Yeah,
lot of stuff just to produce a lot of stuff. So that has to
yeah,
maybe change how you approach your business. But yeah, I think so.
yeah. The thing that I think is most exciting about what you're doing is, I mean, other than the obvious, the employer-owned model obviously is helping families build wealth, but also the fact that like they have to live there because they work there, that you're literally like growing the local, like all the money stays in that community. So I'm just curious to know like if you can actually see the impact and if you guys are tracking it, like rates of home ownership,
Mm,
you know, people starting like indirect job creation, like people starting their own small businesses
mm.
because
Yeah.
now you're like on your second generation, right? Like,
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think, it's hard to like think about how do you track some of these things over like the long
yeah,
term change, but we are trying to. So I think we are cognizant. I think Opportunity Threads has been a business that started before the Industrial Commons formed. And that's been cool to see because there is now kind of a second and third generation of folks. And so these families, built enough wealth that they could enter they bought homes, right? And so now there's like
right.
a group of kids there that are now heading to college when like their parents didn't have that opportunity. So like one of the things that
Mhm.
business started like a fund to help support the kids who were entering college because it was like a whole bunch of first generation college kids suddenly out of this like group of parents that had helped start this business. So it is really incredible to see kind of there is this generational ripple that starts to happen. Um, and I think we're trying to capture their stories, what the long-term sort of like economic impact. I'm not sure we quite wrapped our heads around how to measure it, but we see it and we know it's happening. So it's really
Mhm.
exciting.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Is there like a limit or threshold in terms of how many employees can ultimately become owners?
No, not necessarily. Right
Okay.
now the way we have it structured is it's not necessarily required. I mean, you can become eligible at a certain time and you don't if you're not interested in becoming a member, no one's forcing you to become a
Yeah.
member owner. But you get to invest in that if you decide that's the path you want to take. It does require some investment. And I don't know exactly what Opportunity Threads um, dollar amount is, but they set up different ways that you do that gradually over time. But yeah, you have some
Okay.
skin in the game plus your employment, but it leads to real dividends for you in the future. So
Yeah. Okay, I'm just making sure I didn't miss any. Oh, there is one more
yeah.
question. Um, are GC bids still opened and are other opportunities for participation? How do we submit interest?
Yes, if you own a general contracting firm, you can submit a bid. So you go to the Industrial Commons Innovation Campus bids, I believe is the website there. If you don't find it, you can definitely email me. I'm happy to send it over to you. I'm Erin at theindustrialcommons.org. So if that's your interest, definitely check that out. We hold bi-monthly open houses at our campus here in Morganton at our office. So you can come tour a bunch of our businesses, get to meet some of our staff. So if you're ever in the Morganton area, please feel free to sign up for that. We love to like show off what we're doing and explain in more detail and depth. Those last about 2 hours. And then if there's opportunities to connect, we're always happy to do that.
Awesome. Um, Dr. Chuck Barlow, who's my friend, is asking if there's a link to the project. So I'm going to drop it here if you can, if you know the URL.
It's theindustrialcommons.org.
Okay. And then I'm sure the project will just be on there, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So we have a minute left, and there's one thing that I think is so important. We can wrap up with you maybe speaking a little bit to how this model can be a safeguard for the AI economy. Um, it's just something that I'm, thinking about
Mm.
because if the workers are owners in their company, then they don't have to worry about AI taking over their jobs.
Yeah, I mean, I think I think being in the manufacturing sector, it feels a little bit different. I think like we try to be, we're not against technology, right? And we certainly like we're
Mhm.
setting up yarn and spinning equipment and material return. Some of that is automated, kind of high tech manufacturing stuff. So we think there's some tools that we should be used, but we're not trying to use it to displace workers. We're trying to help make us more
Right.
productive. So I think just our
Right.
fundamental frame of how we're approaching that is different. And I
Yeah.
think we are really valuing the people over any tool we would ever use. So
Yes.
yeah.
Yes. Triple bottom line, people, planet, and profit, you
Profit.
said, right?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
right.
All right. Well, on that note, thank you again, Erin. This was amazing. You all have Erin's contact information, the website. Again, I'm Sade with Just Communities. Our website is justcommunities.info. Please join us again next month and have a wonderful day, everyone. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you, guys. Pleasure being here.
Okay, now we can go backstage.